This is the disclaimer, and I do not claim any originality in preparing this PPT. Welcome to the third session. In this session, we will discuss about the development of management thoughts. Development of management thoughts have been divided into two categories. First one is the early management thoughts, and the second one is the modern management thoughts. Early management thoughts were primarily contributed by F.W. Taylor in the form of scientific management, Henry Fayol in the form of modern management theory, Max Weber and Elton Moy in the form of behavioral sciences, and Chester Bernard in the form of systems theory. And later it was modern management thoughts or modern management theories. Historical perspective. In this session, we will discuss about various contributions, various contributors towards the development of management via a historical perspective. Management is not a new word, it is as old as human society. Right from the beginning, people used to talk about managing, better management, good managers, and all those things. The early Greeks were the first race of people who started about the business, commerce, even they traded humans in the form of slaves. The same concept was later taken up by Romans who followed Greeks in slaveries, and Romans also established the state joint stock companies to raise funds for the projects. The concept of labor, slavery, business, commerce, all those things were spread to middle Europe by Middle Ages, say 900, 800, 1000 AD, and the same thing was spread towards Arab in the form of again trade, human trade, and mercantilism is the distribution of goods in order to realize a profit. At that point of time, it was a barter system wherein goods were exchanged in the form of business, and European again contacted the Arab people, and the words like tariff, zero, they were all adopted by them. Actually, zero is the contribution of Indians. Arabs had taken it from India, which they passed it on to Europe. During 1600, East India Company was formed by English people to exploit the commerce and colonial adventures in the Asian subcontinent. And this was a very prolonged undertaking, and they spread their wings even to Australia, New Zealand. The main intention of them was to do the spice business with India. Industrial revolution helped them to come up with new products in the field of textile mills. Spinning wheel was modernized, mechanization was introduced, interchangeability was introduced, steam engines were produced, modernized, and then the modern management was taken to a new perspective by Frederick W. Taylor. Till that point of time, men were being treated as machines, but Taylor said that there has to be proper collaboration of men and machines to create value or enhance the value. Let us discuss more about F.W. Taylor. His full name is Frederick Winslow Taylor and is regarded as the guru of scientific management. He was the chief engineer at Midwell Steel Company, and he published the book Scientific Management in 1911. He replaced the rule of thumb with science. The rule of thumb means till that point of time, the managers used to follow what their seniors had done, and that was the guidance for them, that was the guidelines for them. But he replaced those rule of thumb with science, and he increased the productivity by scientific methods of production. He divided the authority and responsibility, and he was the first person to propose that authority and responsibility should go hand in hand. And not only that, as we move up in the ladder, authority and responsibility increases. It means more authority and responsibility lies with the top management, and less authority and responsibility lies with the lower management. He created more harmony among workers because he introduced the improved pay for workers. He was the first one to replace the piecemeal system with minimum salary system. This is his photograph. It was a scientific management was a theory of management that analyzed and synthesized workflow flows, and people adopted this concept. He usually used to use the word shop management or process management. Later, Louis Brandeis popularized this term as scientific management because more science was introduced into that, involved in that management system. And later, even Taylor became attracted towards this word scientific management, and he used that in his monograph 1911, and he even named it as scientific management. The main objective of scientific management was to improve the economic efficiency, make the labor productivity better, and make the life of the laborers better. Use science and prove that everything can be improved. That was the earliest attempt to apply science to the engineering process and management. During his development during 1880s and 1890s, he had to struggle a lot because people were not welcoming the idea, but it became very popular during 1910s and 20s. People started realizing that it makes a huge difference by applying science to the management, and by not adopting the scientific management there is a lack of productivity. Just like any other product, when it hits the peak, it has to decline. Even scientific management passed through that era. It was at its peak during 1920s, but later, due to World War One, the entire world started suffering, and even scientific management also suffered. And people started thinking that it's no more a good theory, a valid theory, and it became obsolete. But many aspects, like, see, I can highlight some of them. For example, see, standardization of best practices. This has not gone. Elimination of waste. Even today, this is very, very important. Japanese use the word muda, and their main aim is to eliminate muda. They have identified 7 forms of muda, and the knowledge transfer from worker to worker, from worker to tools, everything, even today, they are all very valid. These are some of the things which make F.W. Taylor even relevant today. Now let us discuss about the second important contributor towards the early management thoughts, Henry Fayol. He was born in Turkey, and he was the director of a mining company, and he worked there till 1918, and during 1916 he published the entire experience in the mining company as administration industrial et generale, and he proposed 6 primary functions of management. We have discussed 5 functions of management, but Henry Fayol had proposed 6 primary functions of management, and his another important contribution is 14 principles of management. His 6 primary functions of management were forecasting, planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. Of these, forecasting is not existing now. Commanding or leading, commanding has been replaced with the word leading, and almost all other things are as it is. This is the photograph of Henry Fayol. Now let us discuss about the major contribution of Henry Fayol towards the management theory in the form of 14 principles of management. First principle is the division of work, which is as same as that of Adam Smith division of labor. Specialization is the main input towards the division of work, and it was observed that it increases the output by making employees more efficient. Authority. Next principle is the authority. Managers must be given the authority to give orders. If you do not authorize them to give orders, then the entire system uh, cannot be managed properly. That was the main reason why Fayol introduced authority as the second principle. Next one is the discipline. If there is a proper authority, then employees will be disciplined. And it is imperative from the employees' side that they need to obey and respect the rules of that particular organization. If you are not convinced with the rules and regulations of an organization, the only way is to quit that organization. So you cannot challenge the organization because organization comes first. It has been built on a firm rules, policies, principles. So as a single person, we are not supposed to challenge that. Our role is to obey that rules and become disciplined. The fourth principle is the unity of command. There should be only one person to give commands. There cannot be more than one person to give commands. If there are more than one leaders, to whom shall we present our views or whatever it is? So, from whom do we take the orders? So that's why there has to be only one person who gives us command. That is the meaning of unity of command. Then the fifth principle is unity of direction. Unity of direction means just imagine a situation wherein two bullocks of a bullock cart are carrying the cart. If one bullock moves to the left and the another bullock moves to the right, what will happen to the cart? The cart cannot move. Similarly, leaders, workers, and everyone present in the organization should have a common goal in front of them. They should have a common direction, common route. Then only the company can go ahead or move ahead. So this is the meaning of unity of direction. The sixth one is subordination of individual interests to general interests. Company has a firm goal to achieve, and each and every individual present in the organization should have the same goal as to achieve. If individual interests come first than the general interests, that company cannot exist or that company will collapse at the earliest. So each and every individual should have a common interest as same as that of the company's interests. Just imagine a situation wherein football match or a cricket match or whatever it is being played. Captain will have a, an interest, players will have some interest. If the players have their own interest to score centuries, not giving importance to the team's interest of winning the match, then what will happen? We will lose the match. That should not happen. There should not be any groupisms. Everyone should think alike. All of them should have a common interest. That is the meaning of subordination of individual interests to general interests. The seventh one is remuneration. Even Henry Fayol spoke about the minimum wage system to workers. The eighth principle is the centralization. Centralization refers to the degree to which the subordinates are involved in decision making. If the organization is small, then controlling with a single centralized decision making system is possible. If the organization grows in size, if it extends beyond the country, goes to various countries, then sitting at one place, controlling everything becomes very difficult. At that point of time, decentralization is the solution. But how much decentralization, how much centralization, that decision has to be taken place, and we have to strike a balance between centralization and decentralization. Next principle is the scalar chain, which refers to the flow of authority from top management to lower ranks. So it indicates the communication flow, it indicates the authority flow, it indicates the responsibility flow from higher level to the lower level. It also tells what are the responsibilities of each and every level. So that kind of cross communication, horizontal communication, upward communication, lower communication, everything has been defined under scalar chain. The 10th principle is order. Everything must be kept in order. That is the meaning of order. So people, material, money, everything should be supplied at the right place at the right time. Then only the entire organization can work smoothly, or else there would be redundancies, there would be bottlenecks. In order to avoid all those things, everything must be in proper order. The 11th principle is equity. Managers should be kind and fair to their subordinates. This is a very important thing. Why Henry Fayol highlighted this particular principle is that at that point of time, workers were not treated as workers, they were treated as slaves. So he wanted the managers to come out of that kind of mindset. So that's why he proposed that managers should be kind and fair to their subordinates. The 12th principle is stability of tenure of personnel. What does this mean? This means the employee turnover ratio. If there is a employee turnover ratio is very high, then that organization cannot sustain. Why it cannot sustain? Because experienced people, skilled people, if they leave the organization, again training the new entrants to the required skills and all those things, it is very detrimental to the growth of the organization. That's why we have to retain the employees. We should not leave them. Some of the organizations have an attrition rate of 40%, 50%. So if attrition rate means the employees leaving the organization, if that is very high, then how can that organization sustain the competition? So that's why people should always think about retaining the employees, not leaving them. The 13th principle is the initiative. Japanese are using this principle even today to a great extent. They have followed this initiative principle and they have adopted this in their organization in the form of quality circles, which is a voluntary organization wherein people can go irrespective of their ranks and present their problems and suggest some solution to them. So what Henry Fayol suggested century ago, even today it is relevant. The 14th principle is Esprit de Corps, means team spirit. We have already discussed about this. 1 plus 1 should be made more than 2. That is possible only with proper harmony and proper unity within the organization. So these are the 14 principles of Henry Fayol which are very relevant even today. Thank you.